All right, y'all. Dan the Pancake Man here, getting ready to do another Joy of Pancakes. So, one moment, because I am, we changed everything in the studio recently, so everything's been moved around. But, hey, it's me, your friendly neighborhood Dan, wearing the same shirt I wore yesterday because nothing matters anymore. Hi, Zemi Wolf. Hi, SN Tuwari. Good to see y'all in the chat. Feel free to drop me messages in the chat. They are going to, from all the different social media, we're restreaming to 4 platforms simultaneously. We usually do. I'm not going to waste any time this morning on introductions and stuff. We're just going to go straight to the overhead camera, and I'm just going to start drawing, y'all. It's been a very strange couple of weeks. This is the first Joy of Pancakes that I've done in a little over 2 weeks now. This is the first Joy of Pancakes I've done this year, technically. I don't know, man. There's been a lot. There's been a lot going on. A lot going on in the background here. Hank, our logistics manager, my best friend, the person who co-founded Pancakes with me, got COVID. And so that kept us out of the studio for a little while we waited to see what was going on there. Very fortunate that none of the rest of us got it. But we're back in the studio now, and the last couple weeks I've seen a lot of reflection. This is the first time since the pandemic started that I have had to properly quarantine, properly isolate. I know that there's lots of folks who have basically seen nobody in the last 12 months or 8 months or however long it's been. And we've been very fortunate that we've had this very small group of people who all have a vested interest in keeping this business afloat. And so we've come in and seen the same 4 people throughout most of the pandemic, coming into the studio, doing pancake art stuff, fulfilling our commissions, live digital events and that sort of thing. And I suppose with this 2 weeks of me just sitting around, not having a lot of pancake art stuff to do, I think all of us, Hank as well, because, you know, with the health issue with COVID, and Ben and Dana, we've all been talking a lot about what the heck we're doing, because I'm gonna be honest with y'all, Pancakes is not what it was this time last year. And this is something we haven't really talked much about. I'm sorry, I'm not starting the pancakes yet. Forgive me, I'm gonna get into some personal stuff for a moment. I don't know if you saw the title of the stream, but I'm feeling very nihilistic at the moment. Maybe nihilistic isn't the right word. Pensive. At the beginning of last year, we were, as a business, at a point where in just a couple of months, we were getting high-profile clients, and we were getting paid more for doing live events. We were getting more consistent work. We were getting to the point where we needed to have a full-time local artist who we were actually training, a girl, Angelique, to be our local artist so that we could all focus on top dollar events and that sort of thing. And it was getting to the point where we were finally, after 5-6 years of working, going to be able to, all of us were going to be able to get a raise. And we were all going to be able to start making a little bit more money than we had been making, salary-wise. And then the pandemic hit. And for those of you who don't, I mean, we've made a lot of jokes about this over the last year because we've been doing a lot more live streaming as a result of this. But for those of you who don't know, it is hard as hell to run an events company when events kill people. And that's what our big problem has been. And so for the last 8 months or so, we've been kind of trying to scramble together and figure out a different business model. And I think it's forced us to reckon, if that's the right word, reckon with some of the inherent flaws in our business model, some of the inherent flaws and inconsistencies. And there's been a lot of inertia, a lot of abrasion between the 4 of us, because we are not, none of us are the boss, right? I think a lot of people, because it's Pancakes, because I founded the company by mistake and that sort of thing, that there's this sense that we are that I'm in charge and everybody else does what I want them to do. But no, we're currently a 4-part partnership with some contractors who work with us out of that central group. And so anytime we want to go in a certain direction, we have to get on the same page. And I believe that's a virtue. you know, I think that's a good part of a business that you, but at the same time, there's also a certain degree of efficiency and a certain degree of emotional intelligence that has to be intentionally cultivated in order for that to function. And when you have 4 people with equal power and everybody has a different idea of what is a good idea for the business and what is a good focus, not to mention the fact that 3 of us are probably diagnosable ADD, when the obvious thing, when the events stop rolling in, it becomes a lot harder to pick a direction and do it. And so right now, oh goodness, I'm just looking at the chat and I see your comment, Becca. I'm very, very sorry to hear that. Sorry for your loss. I hope it's okay that I'm talking about this stuff. I know abrupt and sudden losses, especially by people that we've been with for so long, can be really, really, really painful. I mean, even with that, you sort of have to reflect on. There's a lot to unpack with all that kind of stuff. And I guess the reason that this stream is currently named what it is, and the reason that I haven't started drawing yet, and why I'm still talking about this stuff, is, I guess, in a sense, because I'm publicly psychoanalyzing myself. But we are at a point in this particular situation with Pancakes as a business where we're having to think about like some major changes to the way we're doing things, and there are things that we've been doing for a while that I think, at least in my mind, they've been compromises. One of the things that I've really lamented, and one of the things that I think I've tried to address through the Joy of Pancakes live stream series, which I'm really just dragging this talking part out before I actually do pancake art, is the fact that I don't love what I do. Like, when we do our request live stream on Sundays, I'm making 20 to 25 pancakes that are probably going to get thrown out, composted. Most of them do, because most people don't want to pay $50, $60, $70, $80, $90, $100 to preserve something that I took 8 minutes to draw because I only had that much time to draw it. And I'm sitting there and I'm getting paid $1 or $2. I'm not even, this is going into the company and then being split 4 ways. $1 or $2 donations because everybody's strapped for cash in the pandemic. And it's taken my whole Sunday to come in and prep batter and get on stream and turn on my game face and engage with everybody to the best of my ability. And when the whole system, and when I say the whole system, I mean the global economy, is put under such the screws are being put to it right now. And it's much harder for people to be as generous as they want to be. And it's harder for me to be as generous as I want to be. And when people are getting sick, and when no events are coming in, the events, which was our lifeblood for the 5-6 years that we were doing this up until this point, you inevitably come to a situation where you're like looking in the mirror, you're like, what the hell are we doing? You know? Like, what was our purpose to begin with? What was our purpose? What was my purpose? And I mean, it's a very personal question, right? Like, what was my purpose in doing pancake art? And if you followed me, or if you followed my story, or if you've listened to me answer questions or stuff, over the years, you may have heard me at one point or another talk about how I don't feel, I've never had a wholly, purely positive relationship with Pancakes and with pancake art. Because in a lot of ways, it came along and provided me this economic path towards more freedom in my life, having a little bit more money, having a little bit more free time. But it came at the expense of doing something for other people that wasn't really something I personally found any deep, abiding passion for. And there are things I'm really passionate about. And there's been times in pancake art, in Pancakes, where I have found ways to be passionate about pancake art. The Joy of Pancakes, me sitting here talking to you like this, is one of those ways. And I love this, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity, being able to talk freely about my ideas, be myself, have people hang out and give me feedback, and come around, and they'll come and they'll watch me make a beautiful piece of art that I'm really good at it. I've gotten really good at it, and I'll flip the pancake over, and everybody's like, "That's amazing." And then sometimes people even freaking buy it. They'll even buy the preserved piece now that we can do that, and that's so cool and so fulfilling and so rewarding. And it's about 4% of what Pancakes as a company is. And this last year has really forced that realization into me that in a vacuum, if I had nothing but time and energy and freedom, I wouldn't stop doing stuff. I wouldn't just sit on my butt and consume stuff that other people made. I would still make stuff. I just wouldn't make this. I would make video games, and I would make music, and I would draw graphic novels, and write novels, and write an autobiography, and do all these other things that in my mind are more interesting and more meaningful to me, certainly at this point, than this has almost ever been. For as long as I've done this started as a side effect of a day job. And I remember when it first started to take off, the first year, 2 years of Pancakes pancake art, I had such a love-hate relationship with it, and I kept trying to wrap other things I was doing into it. I kept trying to make my music a part of it. You may not know this, but if you Google the Pancakes mixtape volume 1, you will find a really lo-fi hip-hop album I made with a bunch of my local friends in the St. Louis music scene. I swear on it left and right. I talk about a lot of my mental problems. I've never promoted it because as long as Pancakes has been growing, it has been rewarded by this sort of neutered false front mask that you put on to make it marketable. You go out there and you do BTS pancakes, not because you care about BTS, no offense, I don't have anything against K-pop or any of the things that we've made. It's just, I'm not choosing to make those things because the artist, the creator, the human spark I am wants to. I'm doing it because the systems I have for generating wealth, for generating any kind of economic freedom, and healthcare, which I still don't have, any of that stuff is only possible if I go online and make videos of things that people who like other things will share. If I can like rig the algorithm in my favor. And it's not even because those specific videos pay off. It's because maybe if a video goes viral, one of those people will reach out and hire me for a live event. Or one of those people will hire me for a class. I love the classes. I love teaching the classes. Not nearly enough of my time is currently spent teaching classes. And there's been such a plate spinning, chaotic thing where it's without direction, without a clear and certain destination, especially with my psychological profile. I get distracted, I get manic and caught up in things that entertain me and inspire me, and it's been so hard for me to like have a schedule or have a specific, like I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, or I haven't known what I'm supposed to be doing, certainly not in this context, especially because every time I find something that is really fulfilling and meaningful, like the joy of pancakes, the other people I work with, and all of us, we have this sort of neurotic constraint on this fear of, oh God, well, if we do this wrong, the algorithm will hate us. If we stop doing the unimportant, meaningless content that doesn't give us any sense of fulfillment or satisfaction or sense that I'm contributing anything to the human knowledge pool, if we don't do that, then you end up, pardon my French, fucked. You end up completely abandoned by the whole system. You end up unable to eat and sustain yourself, and then you have to go and you have to get a job working in a public-facing retail environment or food service in the middle of a pandemic. Because our system doesn't care about people, and it doesn't care about the human spark. It's all designed for profit. And I'm just at a point where for a long time it was sort of self-guiding because I didn't have anything better to do. You know, like I didn't have anything better to do with my time or with my life than go and work 100, 200 events, traveling around in a year, completely obliterating any possibility of having a sleep schedule or, you know, having good back health or anything like that. Yes, hello?
Hey, I'm sorry. I left my phone in here.
Oh, okay. Where is it at?
I don't know. Do you have Pancakes?
Is that? No. I guess it's things like that. That Dana coming in to grab her phone shouldn't have thrown me off like it did just there. But I guess it's the sort of thing where it's like I feel like I need, like there's these things that keep interrupting my flow. And it's not Dana's fault. It's not like that's it's a broader problem of this job is fulfilling insofar as I can flow through it and it comes to me very naturally. And to be able to have that and to make money off of that is extremely rewarding. And we haven't had that this year. And this is the first year that we've been really challenged in that regard because, yeah, I don't really love doing live events, especially when it's super busy. I don't really love traveling around. The glamour wore off year 3. When I started to get tendinitis from doing too many events, like at that point I was like, okay, cool. Okay, sweet, awesome. Disney wants to hire me for something. That was really, really special the first time it happened because it's like, whoa, look at how we made it. And now, at this point, if you told me that I was being flown somewhere, aside from the fact that there's this pandemic going on, it just goes to this point of like, okay, well, I'm about to be 31 years old. I'm about to be, and my business that I've been building with my friends has been struggling super hard this year. And how much effort is it worth to just put ourselves through hell to try and build it back up when at the end of the day, if and when we do that, we're going to be doing labor that isn't making me feel good. And I feel like a bad guy sometimes when I talk about this stuff. Because I know how many people would look at my position and say, Dan, you should be grateful. And so I always have to balance my honest opinions against the fact that I do feel grateful. But I also have to be honest with myself. I have to be real. I have to recognize that, like, I have one life to live. And anything, I could get killed. I could walk into the street and get hit by a bus. This is something I realized when I was a very young child. I could get hit by a bus right now. There's nothing about being in a building that protects you from suddenly dying for some awful freak accident reason. And I remember thinking about that as a kid and being like, oh, geez. What does anything mean if you could just get hit by a bus right now? Because you could. And if you're sitting somewhere watching this stream, something could kill you 2 minutes from now. Something could kill you as soon as I finish it. Something could be killing you right now. And then you'll be gone. And when you're dead, you're gone. And, you know, some people believe in an afterlife. Maybe there's an afterlife. Could be. It seems cartoonish to me. It seems a lot more likely that when you go to sleep, that's a very small microcosm of what death is like. When you lose your consciousness and it goes away, dissolves into the ether, and then you're dead and you're gone. And all of your concept of self, your concept of ego, of who you as a person are, dissipates. And all the things you cared about, all the things you thought of as meaningful, all the things you did with your time, irrelevant. So all you really have that you can depend on is whatever moment you're in and however you're feeling right now. And I think we get really, really good at projecting our present emotional state onto the past or onto the future, putting ourselves through present hell to pay for something in the future. And the older I get, the more I think that that's just a big old crock of crap fed to us so that somebody else can make money off of our labor. Fed to us so that somebody else can buy themselves a nice vacation and go self-actualize in the Bahamas or whatever while you're busy wearing a mask at your day job to make ends meet or whatever. It's yeah, I guess it comes down to, I think I'm flowing about all this nonsense right now instead of drawing, because what we've been talking about at Pancakes is how we can make Pancakes continue to exist without it draining our souls out of our eyeballs, because it's been doing that. You know, it's been doing that, and it's been pulling our attention away from things that are more meaningful. And I guess in a certain extent, that calculus is fine if there's money coming in. And there's not. And so we have this little window, and we've had this, that's what it's been for the last 8 months, is it's been this little window, right? Like this little, well, we've got a little bit of money in the bank account, we can make this work for this much longer. Well, we got the PPP loan, you know, we got the government assistance, so we can make this work for a little bit longer. Well, we got a couple of events towards Christmas time. We sold a couple of products towards Christmas time, and so we can make it work a little bit longer. And make it work a little bit longer, I don't think that's not going to cut it for me. Because if we do make it work a little bit longer, at the end of that, what are we aiming at? What is our goal? You know? For as long as I've been doing this, it has been because it is like the seed, the thing that started this whole process was, oh, here's a way for me to make, for my labor to be worth more money. Because when I started this as a fry cook, I was being paid $4.25 an hour. Shortly before that, I was making $2.16 an hour. What we consider it to be legal to pay servers is a fucking travesty. And now we're having this debate about whether or not we should raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and Jeff Bezos is making like $2,900 a second. Like, if you don't think we should okay, let it be known that I think everybody should be paid more for their labor, and that the time you spend as a human on this earth is more valuable than whoever the hell is paying you says it is. But so when Pancakes started, that's what it was. There's this baseline desperation that, like, I have X amount of time, X amount of hours every day in which I don't need to be asleep or eating, in which I have to be making money. And in that time, if I'm making $4.25 an hour plus tips, I gotta do something to make better tips. And that's what Pancakes started as. It started as a way for me to compensate for the fact that nobody in this goddamn world is paid what they deserve. And it worked. And for me, I had this beautiful opportunity, and I knew I could see the abyss. I know what the darkness on the other side of not having this, not cultivating it and being grateful for it looks like. But that doesn't mean it's my purpose, and it doesn't make it spiritually fulfilling, and it doesn't mean that, like, this is what God put me here on earth to do. It means it's what I'm getting away with. And I remember I had a conversation with my stepdad. I love my stepdad very much. His name's Jim, and he has always been very, like, my model for kindness. And one of the things, I remember I expressed some of these feelings to him a couple years ago at a restaurant. And he told me that it was okay for you to just make people happy, right? And that's what Pancakes has been in a lot of cases, right? If I try and find the passion and find the meaning, this makes other people happy, right? People are made happy when they see a character they like flip on the griddle, or when they see somebody do something really with a lot of skill, you know, when they're like, wow, look at that guy go, or wow, that's incredible, or wow, how cool that you've made a living out of doing something you love. And I do love it. But it's just really hard for me to feel like that matters when I have all these ideas in my brain. Ideas that I don't even know how to get to them because I haven't done the work I need to build up the skills I need to access them. and that the energy I would need to get to where these ideas in my brain are is being absorbed by this. And so here I am, making pieces of art that sit on our website and don't get sold because nobody has any frickin' money. And streaming on a regular basis, mentioning a Patreon. We have 2 patrons because nobody has any money. And even if they did have money, what deeper spiritual purpose am I providing you with that makes you feel like giving me money on Patreon? What am I, what are you, what? What is the why? What is the point? What is the purpose? You could say something about the community. And there's something to be said for that. There's something to be said. I think that the folks that come in and hang out on our streams, that, and like what I'm seeing here, like Maya and Sky Kid and Wella, like folks who, there's this, it's simultaneously, it's nice. It's really nice to have, and I think that's why I've mentioned that Joy at Pancakes is self-fulfilling, because I don't make any money for this, right? Joy at Pancakes is nobody is telling me to do this aside from me. I decided to start doing this, and I love to do it because I get to be myself. And when I get to be myself, when I get to talk about what I care about and draw what I'm interested in, and when I get to like explore the ideas that I'm occupied with, I always get great feedback. I always get people telling me that that's the best part of the frickin' show. And it makes me feel like there's a purpose here. There's a deeper reason to be here. There's a more human part of this. And if it's like if everything else went away, this is something I would still do. If I didn't need to make money, I'd probably still come in on a weekly basis and do this. And I guess I just don't, I don't know. I have been finding in the last couple weeks, something switched in my brain. And if you talk to me a lot outside of the stream, then you've probably heard me mention it. That I realized that my whole life, my entire life, as long as I can remember, I've really loved games. And I've really loved the idea of making my own games. In fact, I was talking to my wife, Hannah, the other day, because this has been on my mind so much. There was something that came up, an old memory I'd locked away, that when I was in like 4th grade, it was like the first time we'd ever done the science project, where you build the 3-tiered cardboard box, and you come up with something you want to learn about. And then you test it, you come up with a hypothesis and you test it, and you take pictures of your plants or whatever the hell you're doing a science project on. And I remember that the thing I wanted to study, the self-referential idea that came out of me when I was told I had to pick something to study, was I wanted to figure out how video games work. And there's a sadness to me, because the response I got was because I couldn't put my brain I couldn't figure out how to create a hypothesis that I could test with regards to how video games work, right? Like with watching a plant grow, I could say, oh, if I put it in the window, it might grow more, and if I put it in the basement, it'll grow less. That's a hypothesis that I can test. How do you test a hypothesis with the question, how do video games work, when there's people that know how they work and you can just ask them? And I think that at that point, I really needed an adult to recognize what was going on in my brain and say, hey, let me help you with this. Let me show you how this, and put me down, and because, like, you know, you hear about these coding prodigies, people who've been making video games since they were babies, and they can do so much cool stuff. And it would have been really, really, really great, I think, if somebody had been paying attention to what was going on in my little child brain and helped draw that out. But instead, what ended up happening was I felt foolish, because everybody was like, you can't test that. You can't, that's an illegal direction for your ideas to go. You have to contort your natural impulse into something else so that it can fit the rubric, whatever the rubric happens to be. And now here I am, years and years later, without a college education, with an absolute deep hatred of the public education system. And you wonder why, you know? Like, there is I very, very much, I have a deep, deep resentment for what I perceive as a loss of time. Because now, at age 30, it's taken me 30 years to realize that I'm allowed to do what I want. That it's okay. I can learn this stuff. I can sit down and I can teach myself how to code. All the F's I got in school. The big fat red failure label they stuck on me. It was just bullshit. It's because I didn't fit into the box. And in the last couple weeks, with the money starting to run out, and the pressure on, and just the whole situation being so exhausting in the United States especially, but also in the broader world, you start to feel like, what the hell is the point if me spending all this time forcing myself to be what I think the world and the algorithm wants me to be is going to result in me having to struggle just as hard anyway? Why have I been wasting my time doing something that isn't as fulfilling? Why have I been letting myself push the study and the practice and the time that I'm going to need to do what I really want to do? Why have I been allowing this to consume me completely instead of finding a way to make what I really want to do pay off? Because there's so much pain there. I'm finally realizing there's so much hurt, such a sense of just institutional and societal betrayal. Like, we have let down and continue to let down, mind you. Every day, we are letting down millions and millions of children by forcing them to think that who and what they are as God made them is inadequate. And I'm sick of it. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care enough to constrict myself anymore. And I don't care enough about what other people think I should do, or what other people think I should or shouldn't be grateful for, or what how people will perceive me saying, oh, Pancakes isn't my purpose or whatever. Like, fuck it, I don't care. Like, life is so short. I know what it's like to have somebody you love die abruptly. And I know what it's like to look at the void and realize that time is running out on all of us. And I think I would rather spend 6 months starving as I try my best to make something I love work and then die at the end of it than spend 80 years living a life that never lets me feel that sense of deep and abiding fulfillment that I know is possible when I allow myself to just be what I want to be. So I'm going to make games. And I'm probably going to come in on Mondays and do the Joy of Pancakes. And we will probably continue to push our Pancakes Patreon, and we will probably continue to do digital events, and I'm not going to care about any of it. I'm going to put my soul where my soul wants to go. And so when you see me working on pancake art, you're going to know that I'm doing it because I really want to. Not because I have to, not because 1,000 people told us to make BTS pancakes, but because I was moved to. And maybe that'll make my art worth more, you know? Maybe if I don't make 400,000 pieces a week that I throw away and don't have any particular deep emotions attached to, maybe somebody will actually pay what I think they're worth. Maybe we'll get a rich patron. We'll be like, wow, you know, Dan, really moved by your willingness to be authentic like that. And you know, maybe I won't. I just don't care anymore. Hence why the title of this stream is breathing. It's a very wonderful author, teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh. ThichNhatHanh. It's Vietnamese. I believe he's still alive. I know he's very old, and I know he's gotten sick, so I don't think he'll be with us too much longer, but Thich Nhat Hanh has a bit of a reputation. He's a best-selling author of books such as The Art of Communication, The Art of Power, Savor, How to Approach Mindfulness in Everything You Do. And one of the things Thich Nhat Hanh mentions in the first book of his that I ever read, which was The Art of Communication, so he mentions how breathing is something that we all do very mindlessly. And yet, if you bring your attention to your breath, and if you allow your mind to truly savor the feeling of breathing, you find that no matter where you are, or what you're doing, or what you're facing, or what stress you're going up against, or what feelings you're experiencing, you find that no matter what, you have this ever-present battery of divine bliss squarely located in your lungs. No matter where you are, no matter what's happening, if you are able to breathe, then in that moment, you are able to find something profound to be grateful for. How often do you just breathe? Actively, intentionally, and with awareness. If you're like me, it's probably not that often. More so in the last couple years. wonder how much of that is intentional on the part of our gigantic conspiratorial thought paradigm. Because maybe it's not so much that we're intentionally taught not to be mindful, so much as it is that we are in the things we are taught in our culture. Usually, there's no priority on being okay. There's no priority on mental health. There's no priority on teaching kids to have the tools they need to self-regulate their emotions and communicate to one another about what it is they need and meditate. We don't teach kids how to meditate. I had to teach myself when I was 23 or 24, and I remember one of the craziest parts of the experience for me of learning how to meditate was learning how easy it is. Because when you first try, at least as a Western mind, when you first try meditating, you have this extremely well-developed self-referential judge in your brain trying to figure out if you're doing it right. And it's this super obnoxious, noisy thought loop that starts to trigger in your brain and is just constantly self-monitoring to try and make sure, oh, did you stop thinking? Did you breathe right? Okay. Did you count to 10 when you breathed? Okay. So are you doing meditation right? Are you the best, or are you bad? Or should you be ashamed of your meditation performance? Or you just have this obnoxious little voice that's telling you every single thing you're doing is not good enough, and is incorrect, and is failure, and is not what meditation is all about, right? You're not that guy sitting on top of that mountain with the light coming out of his head. You're no guru. You're just a goober that thinks they can meditate, but you can't, because you're so bad at it. And if you practice for long enough, which, and mind you, I don't have like a regimen, right? Like when I say practice for long enough, I'm not sitting here saying you have to get into like I meditate every day at 8 a.m. or whatever. Like, I literally have no structure on my meditation processes whatsoever. It's just I have learned from trying from time to time, whenever the mood took me over the years, that there's no right way to do it. And that's the whole point. The number one thing that gets in your way when you're trying to meditate is the idea that there's a right way to do it. I could make a pretty compelling argument that me sitting here talking to you right now is a form of meditation, because I'm just flowing. I'm not letting really anything that I'm thinking or feeling with regards to this drawing, with regards to what I'm saying or my facial expressions or anything. I'm not thinking about it. I'm just doing it. And I gotta tell you, one of the most blissful things I've felt all day. Because it's us, and it's our egos that are constantly coming along and coming up with reasons for why this isn't good enough. You know, like, oh, I said too much, or oh, I shouldn't have cried on stream. I totally did. I totally cried on stream. Or oh, people don't want to see this, and it's like at a certain point, well, I guess it's not inevitable, right? What I was about to say was that at a certain point you get tired of it and you let it go. It's not inevitable. There are lots of people in the world who will hold on to their judgmental bullshit until it kills them, or they die of natural causes. And they'll live their entire lives in service of what other people want them to do. And that whole time, there will be a voice in their head telling them that what they really want isn't good enough, and that how they really feel isn't good enough. They can't be honest about their feelings. They can't communicate their feelings to the people that really matter to them, because they'll abandon them if they do. And to be fair, most of that really negative stuff is learned in childhood as the emergent result of cycles of abuse handed down by our parents and our teachers and authority figures. We have all this fear dredged up inside of us that if we don't fit the mold perfectly, we will be sent into the forest to die, living our last moments in a cold and miserable exile. At least that's what I assume the deep evolutionary reason we invented shame is to make sure we fit the mold for everybody around us. And I think that to a certain extent that is a very powerful and useful thing, because there's a lot of things that we are drawn to as meat-brained human flesh puppets, that you get to a point where you hurt people because you have unresolved darkness, or you're just a fool. We're all fools, and so we hurt people. And so in a certain sense, shame is a great messaging system for a close-knit network of humans to help regulate the behavior of one another. That if this person does something awful, everybody makes them feel ashamed of that until they change. Seems reasonable. Problem is that in our world, we don't have close-knit networks of people like that. Certainly, I mean, sometimes we do here and there, but they're nothing like they used to be and nothing like we evolved for. Our networks are massive and decentralized and extremely far apart. We're more alienated from one another than we've ever been before, certainly in the last year. And so the shame reflex that we have that gets in the way of meditation is also the same shame reflex that we project onto other people when we cancel them online, and when we get into nasty arguments with relatives on Facebook about politics. We have this deeply embedded sense that when things are not the way that we think they should be, that the right way to fix them is to attack the essence of people's character. And we don't realize that by cultivating that reflex, when there's nobody else to point it at, it gets pointed inward. And that's why we can't meditate. Because we'll sit there and we'll try. Do or do not, there is no try. There's a reason Yoda said that. We'll sit there and we'll try to meditate. And what ends up happening is we shame the shit out of ourselves. To no end. But gosh, it's so cool when you realize that's what's happening. It's such a wild experience. And you'll if you read any wisdom literature or esoteric stuff, you will inevitably end up finding accounts of there's this concept in Buddhism called Satori, S-A-T-O-R-I. And from what I understand, Satori describes a sort of sudden enlightenment, right? Like a eureka moment for enlightenment. And you'll hear these stories of these old guru folks who you experience a moment of Satori, and then and what happens is you're reduced to fits of laughter. And I think because I've had this experience more than once in my life. I have had the experience of Satori followed by fits of just deep, deep bouts of laughter, uncontrollable laughter. And you know what the laughter is about? You know why you're laughing so hard? It's because in those moments are some part of your brain flipped, something clicked, and you realized something, you became aware of something that allowed you to let go of a deep tension you were holding on to that was causing you an inordinate amount of pain. Indirectly and directly from holding on to it, from it being inside of you, like literally screwing up your shoulders and stuff, but also indirectly because of how that stress manifests in the way you conduct your affairs during the day, the way you treat the people around you, how quick you are to anger, and the ensuing cascade of effects that come from always being quick to anger, and all the relationships you put stress on, and all the pain and all the hurt. And then in a moment of Satori, you realize, oh, I'm holding on to this, and it's hurting me, but I'm still holding on to it because I'm a fool. And it's the awareness. That's the joke I think about enlightenment, is that, we have all these ideas about what enlightenment is and what a right way to conduct your affairs are, and how to be a good person, and how to be extra double mega woke and all these things. And only in moments of the sublime awareness of the truth do you realize that it's all bullshit. Nobody knows what's going on. Everybody's doing their best, and everybody's best is not perfect. Anybody who expects perfection from you or anybody else is themselves projecting their own lack of self-worth and lack of self-esteem onto the other people in the world, so that they can feel good about themselves, because that's the only way they know how to, even though they're completely unconscious of it. And you and I do the same thing. And when it all clicks, and when you realize that's what you're doing, and when you realize the reason you're hurting so bad, the reason you're suffering, the reason you're carrying that pain around, is because you are doing so voluntarily, can't really help but laugh. And so you take a breath, a deep breath, because your breath is always available to you so long as you are still alive and your lungs are functioning. Your breath is there. You take a deep breath, and you taste it. You think about it. You think about how the breath feels. You think about how it fills your lungs so completely, and how wonderful it is to have lungs at all. And in that moment, you are meditating like a pro. And then when your mind wanders and you think about something else, you're still meditating. It's meaningless. Define it how you want. Nobody cares. Everybody's going to die. Nothing's real. Time is a flat circle. You're in Carcosa now. I'll tell you right now, I feel very, very good. And I feel like, geez, there's a lot of things that I feel good about right now. I'll be honest, I have not been reading the comments like I usually do. And I think part of it is because I was looking at them for a second and they were stressing me out. And a part of it is because I feel like when I'm on a good flow, a good psychological flow, and I have a lot of things that I clearly have that I want to talk about, that it makes for better stream and better content, certainly after the fact, for me to just do that. Focus on that. Let that stuff come out of me naturally, and care less, I suppose. Been caring a lot lately. And I think it's made me unhappy. I know that there's all kinds of, oh yeah, caring's important. I don't care anymore. I don't care about anything. I guess that makes me sound nihilistic, but I think it's the way that I'm using that phrase, I don't care anymore, may not be how most people will hear it. It's like Mark Manson. He's a very successful self-help book author who wrote a famous little tome recently called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's bleeped on the cover, but this is the third time I've dropped an F-bomb on this stream, so clearly I don't care. And Mark Manson's book is, he says it's the subtle art of not giving a fuck, because the whole point is that your first impulse on what not giving a fuck means is not necessarily what is implied by the title of the book. Because a lot of people think of it as nihilism, as not caring about anything at all. But he spends the entire book explaining that no, on the contrary, the art of not giving a damn, not giving a fuck, however you, I'm still self-censoring out of habit, even though I don't care anymore. the art of it comes from letting go of the things that don't matter. Because so much of what we care about doesn't. I was having a conversation with my cousin, my 13-year-old cousin recently. She's wonderful and I love her, and she's had a very miserable year, not least of which because of the pandemic, but also because of conflicts with her parents and just growing as a person and becoming curious and inquisitive into your adolescence and early adulthood can be really painful when you start to ask yourself questions about why do I have to know what I want to do for the rest of my life while I'm in high school? Why am I expected to go 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, $100,000 in debt based on an assumption of what I'll be doing in 15, 20 years when I'm not even 20 years old? Why am I expected to give a damn about that to the point where it's valuable in our society to make ourselves suicidally miserable in pursuit of it? Because we're all addicted to profit and economics. And all of it's being exposed again and again to be a bunch of superficial, self-indulgent crap, so that people that already have the privilege to be in positions like that have a moral justification for why their lives are better than everybody else's. That's really what it's about. And that's really why those myths get continued to be spread and imposed on people. It's because somebody's making money off of it, and somebody else gets to pretend like they're better than you because of it. Like, oh, you're working class? Oh, you're homeless? Oh, well, that must be because I have more inherent worth than you do. And you know what I've realized? I don't give a shit if you went to school. I don't care what degrees you have. I don't care how many books you've written or how many languages you know. You are exactly as valuable as I am. I think there was a thing that happened when I was high school age. Well, specifically, so from middle school to high school, right? So middle school, what is that, age 11 to 14 or something, 12 to 14 maybe. When I was in middle school, I went to a school called McKinley CJA, McKinley Classical Junior Academy. It is a gifted school for children that scored above a certain point on an IQ test or something. I've always been very smart. I've been pretty good at answering, goofy questions about, where does milk come from, or whatever they ask on the IQ test to see if you're aware of the world or what have you. And so I went to McKinley. And around my 8th grade year, which is the last year of middle school, that was right around the time that homework started to become more important, and your performance, your quote-unquote academic performance, started to really get tested because you had actual work you needed to do. I couldn't just skate by on doing my worksheets at the start of class and doing really well on tests, which is what I had done up until that point. I was always getting really good grades up until I was expected to take my work home with me and let it cut into my free time, which all I wanted to do was play video games. That's the only thing I really wanted to do. Play video games. And at a certain point in middle school, that started to not be enough. And so what happened was my grades started to suffer. And all the other smarty pants nerdo kids that I ran with, the kids I played D&D with, the kids that I felt like I could talk to about stuff, and like place where I felt like I belonged, all those kids, most of them anyway, lots of them, ended up getting into Metro High School, which is the top-rated high school in the state of Missouri. Top-rated high school in the state. It's here in St. Louis. And Metro High School is where all the smart kids went, and if you got below a C average while you were at Metro, they'd kick you out because you'd mess up their stats. So a lot of my friends ended up going to Metro High School. And there were even some friends who went to the same high school as I did, Gateway, the year after that, after middle school, and then busted their ass to improve their grades to the point where they could later get into Metro. And I don't talk to almost any of those kids anymore. And these are the people who I thought were my best friends at the time. And it was only recently that I realized how much that hurt and how much of that pain I'd been carrying with me and allowing to sort of color all the other things I was doing in my life. How much the sort of exile, that's the word that comes to mind, exile. I was not good enough to fit into the social group of smart kids. I did not have the work ethic. I did not have the grades. I couldn't go and be a part of their group. Compounding the shame I was already starting to feel from the fact that I couldn't get good grades effortlessly anymore. And obviously at this point, I didn't really have the language or the self-awareness to understand what was going on, but there was a lot of pain that I was experiencing. A lot of hurt that I wouldn't even recognize as such until much later in my life. And I think there's still a part of me that's salty about it, right? Like I have still got these feelings of abandonment. And a really nasty thing, side effect of that, is that those feelings of abandonment can lead you to act and lash out and behave in ways that make it worse. Especially when you're not conscious of why you're feeling that way or even what your feelings are. You can sort of start to cultivate and hold on to resentments towards people that don't really mean you any harm. They're people too. They're just doing their best, just like you are. And so there have been over the years a couple of situations where some of those old friends might have come back into my life, and then the way I behaved towards them let them know that I was too toxic of a person to be around. And so then the exile gets locked in, and then you'll never be a part of that group ever again. And you have to kind of come to grips with that, you know? And then you start to meditate. You start to breathe. And these ideas, these memories, these recollections start to sort of come back into your mind with new context, new awareness. You've read more books. You've talked to more people about their problems. You've had more experiences, and you start to have these things come up in your mind because you're just letting them naturally occur to you. And you breathe, take a deep breath in, and it goes away. Because I don't care anymore. Because I realize now, after all this time, that whatever the hell it was that happened, whatever pain I was carrying around, led me to this moment directly, All those mistakes, all that hurt, all that pain led me to this moment directly, not indirectly, not by mistake, but I'm here as a direct result of how things played out, however that happens to be. And if in this moment I am breathing in through my nose and pulling oxygen into my lungs and feeling the sublime exhilaration of having a functioning physiology that can process oxygen and deliver it to your cells, that's a direct result of that too. So I've literally got nothing better to do. My whole purpose in life, everything that I am, everything I've ever done, all the decisions I've made, the successes and the failures, whatever it is always true that it has always led to the moment you're in. And if, in that present moment, you are capable of cultivating an awareness, a presence of mind that lets you be grateful for all the suffering and the hurt and the pain and all the joy and the adulation and the success, everything. If in that moment you can recognize all those things and possess that, there's no reason to care. There's no reason to hold it. There's no reason to still feel that hurt and that pain, because it has served you exactly as it needed to. And here you are, right where you need to be. I think there's another little anecdote that comes to mind about, so those of you who don't know, I have been a bit of a psychonaut over the years. And when I say a psychonaut, what I mean is I have dabbled in illicit substances. Not recently. It's not really my jam anymore. But psychedelic drugs used to be something that I would do for a good time. And there was one experience in particular where I went to a rave in Paducah. I believe Paducah's in Kentucky. Paducah, Kentucky. I went to a rave. And I went with two of my friends. One of them was performing, and the other one was just along for the ride with me. And we met somebody there who had a bag of chocolate-covered synthetic mushroom things. I don't know. It's probably not wise to buy drugs from strangers at raves and then put them in your body immediately without testing them, but I did. And it was a good time. It was a Halloween party, so, you know, you've got this drug in your brain that's making things seem stranger than they actually are, and everybody around you is wearing some ridiculous Halloween costume, like some guys dressed like Mario and some guys dressed like Luigi, and you see them and your brain processes it as that's actually Mario and Luigi, even though you kind of know it's not them. You're just playing into it, and very surreal experience. Fun, interesting. You can learn a lot about yourself. At least I did. You can also overdo it, so be careful. But basically, at the end of that, on the way home, sitting in the back seat of my friend's car, was driving me and my other friend home. And mind you, the guy who was driving us was a little frustrated because I think he was expecting us to be able to help him drive home or something. I didn't have a license, so I wasn't. But he was mad that we had put drugs in our body and become not sober. But my head wasn't there, and so I didn't really care that much. Where my head was I was looking out the window, looking at streetlights go by in Paducah, and just thinking. And I was coming down from this trip, and so my brain's a little bit weird. I'm not completely back to baseline. And I remember thinking, I'm enlightened. because I had read some stuff from a couple of enlightened scholars and had just enough of a baseline understanding to have sort of organically come to the conclusion that enlightenment is not a goal, it's not a destination, it's a state of mind. And if you happen to be okay with where you are, wherever you happen to be, in that moment, you are enlightened. And I made that connection. And first thing I did when I got back home was I talked to one of my other friends, an old friend who I recently reconnected with. And I told him, I said, dude, I think I'm enlightened. And I told him about my experience, and he told me that I sounded ridiculous. There's no way that you can't, that's not how enlightenment works. You can't just get there. You can't just have enlightenment like that. And I believed him, and I felt foolish and ashamed, like a big old goofball baby, a fool who took a drug and let the drug tell him that he was enlightened, and then believed what the drug had to say and accepted it. And so then I let go of that, and I was like, I guess I'm not enlightened. Fast forward a couple of years, like me right now, reflecting on that, that's what it is. That's what enlightenment is. If you are in a moment and you are self-aware and you feel enlightened, who's anybody else to tell you you're not? Who gets to define what enlightenment looks like? Nobody, not even you. So if you feel that way, you may as well be that way. Because what's the worst that could happen? You're wrong about it? What aren't you wrong about? You're wrong about everything. You're a human. You're a meat brain. You're a bunch of soggy bacon shooting electricity through it to the best of its ability to try and hallucinate what reality actually is. And it just gets weirder. So, coming up to the end of this pancake here, and I don't think I'm going to be drawing another one, because I don't feel like it. So for those of you who are still watching, despite my absolutely going totally off the rails and rambling about my psychological problems for an hour and a half or however long this has been going on, thank you for watching. I'm very grateful for that. I do enjoy doing this. I think I need this. And if you would like to support the show, please consider checking out Pancakes on Patreon. If we can get a couple more patrons on there, that would, I think, go a long way towards helping us keep doing this. Because we're, like I was saying towards the beginning of this, like we're having to have some real heavy conversations about what the hell we're doing and why we're doing it. Because we live in a world where you have to make money. And if we aren't asking for it enough, and that's why people aren't backing us on Patreon, then I guess I need to ask more. And if they're not backing us on Patreon because they don't want to, well, I guess that is what it is. I really just need enough money to get by through the next couple months so I can teach myself how to program. I have been learning, I've been spending about 4 hours every morning. I've been waking up early, which if you know me, that is freaking unheard of for me. I need to have a real good reason to get out of bed in the morning. But I've been waking up at 6, 7 a.m. and spending about 4 hours every morning for the last 2 weeks staring at C# programming language in the Unity, the Microsoft Visual Basic code editor, and trying to teach myself what the hell a Boolean is. That's a joke. Boolean's really simple, but trying to teach myself what a struct is, teach myself how the math shakes out, how a program calls different methods into it to make things happen. I learned how to make a first-person player character move according to my mouse and according to the WASD keys. I learned how to program that. And I really like to take my board game Anthromancer and turn it into a full-on video game experience. And beyond that, I really want to learn how to I want to learn how to program a blockchain. Yeah, I know. Cisgender white dude, tech bro, trying to learn how to program a blockchain. Everybody's doing it, but I want to learn how it works because I think there's a lot of potential in that system, in that sphere of learning, sphere of knowledge right now that could do things that were a lot more interesting than pancake art. Because yeah, this whole rant I've been talking about how I want to feel something more meaningful. I want to feel something more spiritually fulfilling, something that gives me energy rather than takes it. And if I could find a way to break money, I know it's a ridiculous goal, but it's not going to fulfill itself. And I may never be able to do anything significant with it, but you know what? Nobody who thinks they can't ever does. Worst thing that happens is I make a fool of myself. Also, hello Sky Kid, thank you for saying that it looks good so far. And as for your dyslexic brain just going thinking about the coding, you know, it's not for everyone. And the thing is for the longest time I have been telling myself it's not for me. I have been telling myself that due to anxiety, that I have an undiagnosed anxiety, this need to do is do the programming. Something flipped in my brain in the last 2 weeks while I was reflecting on all this pancake art stuff. Something flipped in my brain that made me realize that actually I can take as long as I need if I really want it. If I honestly and truly want to know how to do it, there's only one way that happens, and that's with practice. And I'm not going to practice if I can't justify doing it in my head because all my energy is being tied up in other things. And I've had freedom over the last 2 weeks to sort of self-determine my schedule, and it's waking up in the morning and learning to code that I've been doing. And I don't really know where it'll go. Maybe me just saying this on the stream is gonna sabotage it, you know? Like they say that's a thing that can happen. Like if you announce to the world that you're working on something before it's done, then you'll lose interest in it because you're not getting the dopamine of knowing you'll be able to reveal it someday. And I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. Not right now, I don't. I think that this is the sort of thing that, like, there's so much for me to learn, and there's so many things that I could do once I learn it, that I don't see my brain slowing down on eating this information up anytime soon. Also, hello Claudia. Claudia Montemayor is watching over on Facebook. Claudia is a extremely talented pancake artist based in Mexico. Their handle is Pancakes, NAPPANCAKES on Instagram. I highly recommend that you check them out. Claudia is, of all the pancake artists that I have seen arise in the ether over the years, I think Claudia is the one that gives me the most run for my money. Like, if I ever stop doing pancake art, that woman is going to be blowing the world away for a long time to come. Your art is very exceptional, and you are a wonderful person, so thanks for dropping into the stream. What would you say this guy? I'd hire Scott Cawthon to assist with thy coding. For now, I just want to voice characters and bring folks to life. Gotta have that too. Gotta have that too. One of the things that I think I'm most excited about with regards to game design and learning how to do it myself is that there are so many tendrils to it. There's so many places where an artist can really spread their legs and challenge themselves and express themselves, like as a musician, as an artist, as a programmer, as a game designer, as a business manager, as an entrepreneur. Games, because of their inherent complexity, because of their inherent technical expertise necessary, you can do so much. So we're going to flip this over. This was just a freestyle. I just kind of pulled a bird and some wind out of my butt because I was in a mood, a fey mood. But here we go, folks. 3, 2, 1. I like that. Simple. Textured. Pretty. Yeah. Makes me happy. Cool. We have a seat here. We'll leave that going for a minute. I'm feeling very, very happy right now. So I'm very grateful to have had this little moment to air my grievances with reality and talk about the things I really care about and make a little cute little piece of pancake art too. If you are interested in purchasing this piece, please send an email to hank@dancakes.com and do so soon, because we aren't going to be saving them like we used to. One of the things we talked about was there's a lot of old pieces that have been sitting in a freezer that just look like busy work because we don't have anybody guaranteed to buy them, and so there's a lot of pancakes that we're going to be making in the future that are just going to get composted. So if you want one of our pieces to be preserved, reach out to us ASAP. Send an email to hank@dancakes so we know to set it aside before we toss it. And if you'd like to commission an original piece of your own, we're always open for commissions. We're always open to make whatever piece you want, and then you'll pay for that, and then we'll guarantee that we'll preserve that and send it to you. We also sell all of our products at dancakes.com, including the Dancakes griddle, the spatula. We have all these bottles, like all the tools you need, and we actually can sell you batter and colors as well now. Everything you need to be a professional pancake artist or just a hobbyist pancake artist, we can provide you with those things, so please look into that. Again, if you are interested in supporting us as artists and creators and supporting the project of Dancakes, I would really love it if you would check out our Patreon. If you look up Dancakes on Patreon, it's actually on the overlay there, Dancakes, or patreon.com/Dancakes. If you look us up on Dancakes, if you look us up on Patreon, you can become a patron, and there's some really cool rewards you can get for as little as, I want to say, $3, $5, something like that. It's all on the Patreon, so you can check it out. And as always, much like the live stream that I did this through, all the cameras and stuff, we can do digital events and we can do classes. Digital events and classes. So if you're interested in hiring us for a birthday party, you can put us up on a big screen and give us a list of all the different pancakes you want to see, and we can even set aside some of those for preservation if you'd like. And classes, if you order some of our stuff, or even if you don't order some of our stuff and you just want to learn from us step by step how we do pancake art, then please consider booking us for a private class. Beam us straight into your house, and me or Dana or Ben or one of our other fantastic artists will come through and teach you how to make pancake art. Without further ado, that's going to be the end of our Joy of Pancakes stream today. If you're expecting me to make more pancakes, because all 51 of the other episodes I usually made 3 to 5 of them, sorry, I guess. But with all the stuff that's been going on and sort of reevaluating where our energy is going, a lot of this stuff, like what I want for my contributions, for my episodes, what I want is I want to come in and I just want to hang out and talk to y'all and make something out of the blue and be done with it. Like the ebb and flow and the stress of feeling like I'm beholden to the people in the chat. It's like I'm tired of being at odds with myself. And if that's not good enough for you, then sorry, it's who I am. Again, gave you all the information as far as how you can support us and all the cool services and products we offer. And again, I'm super grateful that you watched. Thanks for being a part of the Joy of Pancakes episode 52, everybody. I love you all very much. And I am hoping that you will join me again on Wednesday. I'm not sure if I will keep doing it 2 days a week, but we'll see. We're just trying to reorient all of our priorities so that we can continue to have fun doing this and not feel sad. So, thanks for watching. I'm gonna plate this pancake, and then I will get out of your hair. Everybody, remember to keep us in mind for all your pancake art needs. Dancakes.com. Oh, and I dropped my pancake onto the table. That's pretty funny. And yes, we'll ship to Belgium. I'm not sure if we can ship these bad boys to Belgium just yet, but because of like differences in the power grid. But we can ship all the other tools we use, such as our bottles, our batter, our food gels, and I think that's all we have. I don't know. Batter pens, that's the thing. So thank you so much, everybody. Oh, and don't worry about the numbers. I think if I keep doing this kind of off the cuff nonsense, we'll get more